Hannah's gonna kill me. We're starting again.
I'm gonna dig my passion back out again. Well, actually, I don't think it ever really goes away.
Okay, so what just happened? Welcome, Fempreneurs, by the way. I'm here with Hanna, and she just told probably the first third to half of her incredible story before I realized that I still had the external microphone setting turned on the camera, which means it wasn't recording sound because we weren't using an external microphone. Live and learn, rookie mistake. We're starting over, and she's graciously laughing right now, probably gritting her teeth a little bit.
No,
she
because
just
that's what
told
it's all about. What I love about this is what I go through when I'm doing my own videos. So I love the human factor, that this is what happens to all of us every once in a while, and this is the story of my life. You just roll with the punches.
This is also a much more interesting beginning than last time.
I think so.
I
think so. We have our Tim
And
Hortons
we already have our
teas.
Tim Hortons. You guys don't get to hear us go through
Cheers.
the drive-through this time, which is, apparently that wasn't meant to be.
No.
So I am gonna start it off the same way I did last time.
Okay.
Where I'm gonna ask you to share what you do, where you live, a little bit about yourself, and then I'm gonna give you a couple major words to just roll with.
Okay. So I'm Hanna, and I live in Golden, British Columbia, and I am a certified animal communicator, and a lot of my practice, about half my practice, is working with clients and their animals in end-of-life transition and death and dying. And that's a lot of my practice. The other part of my practice I like to joke about is about working with animals who have people problems versus people with animal problems. Because, the animals need all the help they can get with us.
Dark. Hi, Dark. Speaking of animals with people problems.
He wishes he had a tea, too.
Oh, is that what he's saying to you right now?
No.
Because he probably does.
He wants a cookie instead. Yeah.
He just wants to play fetch all the time.
Yeah.
What does that mean? We'll come back to that later. Okay, lay down and be quiet. Good boy.
Thanks, Dirk.
He listens well.
He does.
Okay, so I'm going to shoot you straight with some big words like we did before. And let you roll with it. Take two. Childhood trauma.
Childhood trauma. Definitely grew up in a dysfunctional home. My father was an alcoholic, and my mom definitely struggled with that, and also struggled with herself. And there was a lot of challenges. My parents weren't always available for us because they were caught up in their own stuff. And I'm really lucky to have had the animals that we did pretty much from birth on. There was cats or dogs, and later in life I had a horse. And my parents, we immigrated from Finland, and being an immigrant, there was a lot of rigidity in moving to the country and trying to fit in, and faced a lot of bullying because you're always the weird kid, just because,
Because you don't speak the language
you don't speak the language well, and you eat weird, and you got knitted clothes, and, the life skills that we had from there don't really work here, and we moved into a small town. And
where did you move to?
we moved, my dad finished his PhD in Western, in, I think, London, Ontario. And then he got his first job in Kimberley, British Columbia. And growing up in there was great, but I was shy. I didn't speak English well. My parents didn't speak English. My dad spoke some because he was working, but my mom didn't speak very much. We were told not to speak our own language. And I had a great imagination, so I basically spent a lot of my childhood in art and drawing and escaping that way, and being with my animals because they could relate to me. I wasn't getting teased. I wasn't getting bullied. I wasn't the weird one. And that was definitely a challenge growing up. And I wouldn't change any of that because that's what has made me who I am.
But it must have been hard in the moments.
Oh, dear gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There were so many tears. And I don't know what I would have done without my animals and being able to cry into them and them supporting me. And they were like my real live teddy bears.
And did you feel like they understood you in a way that
Yes.
humans didn't? Because
Yes.
that's one thing about animals that I think
Yes.
not all people understand that, especially parents who won't get a pet for their kids and things. Like, I think that there is something.
Well, animals, our relationship with them, it is truly, I cannot find anything else. It is truly the only, in my opinion, relationship, when we have a relationship with an animal, that there's unconditional love. But I will still say it's one-sided. They give us unconditional love all the time. And I don't know a human that is capable of doing that. And we aren't even fully capable of giving that to them.
Oh, no, not at all.
But they love us. It doesn't matter what we look like, or what we wear, how we smell, like nothing.
Yeah.
They love us. When our heart is pure, they love us. And they're feeling beings, and they feel everything because they live from their heart. And when we're children, we live from our heart, so we feel everything. So I felt the energy in my household growing up. I was so sensitive to it. But when we start speaking, we then switch to our left brain, and then the words start coming in, that then our heart that was so big. That's why children and animals are so connected, because they're so connected from their heart. But when we start the spoken word, we start to then go into our left brain, and then we start shutting down our heart. And life circumstances and life events and situations and relationships and rules change us.
Okay, we're going to pause there for 1 second because I'm having some PTSD about the sound.
Okay.
So I'm just going to do a quick sound check.
Yes.
We'll be right back. Okay, so we're good. Sound is great. We are good to go. So, yeah, please continue with that train of thought. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like I said,
You're going to have to remind me what my train of thought was just there.
What I was asking you was about the childhood trauma and connecting that with the animals, which you did beautifully, and you said a bunch of things that I'm going to re-listen to a bajillion times because it was amazing. So I'm just so thankful that we have this recorded because, yeah, you really, you have such a gentle way of educating people about just the way things are, which is very cool. Like, so the first time I met Hanna, see, I call you Hanna because
think of honey,
like honey. Hanna.
Yeah.
Okay, Hanna. The first time I met Hanna was in Golden, and I was on my way to do my own little writing retreat in Salmon Arm, and we went for a coffee, which I thought would be like 30 minutes. 3 hours later,
Yes,
we were best friends.
I like to talk.
Well, I think I did a fair bit of talking as well, but I learned tons from her. I learned a lot about her. But today, I've already learned a ton more about you, which is super cool. And I'm really excited for you to be sharing your story of connecting, obvious purpose that keeps you up at night because you need to share with others, with like the internet and getting the message out there and finding people that need what you have to offer and seeing that relief in their lives because you've come into their life to help them with stuff that you get, that you just know how to do.
Yeah.
Well,
I've walked the path.
Yeah.
I've walked the path of pet loss. I've walked the path of loss of a parent. I've walked the loss of sickness. I've walked the loss of my own injuries. I've walked the loss of my own near death with a couple times. I've had 2 emergency surgeries, and one of them was a ruptured appendix, and the surgeon's first words were, "Glad we kept you on this side." And I've had a lot of trials and tribulations, and I really thank the animals on that. And I experience and live in the moment, and they keep bringing me back to the moment, so I'm able to go through those experiences. But I was so grateful in my 20s. I learned whenever life gave me lemons, like they always say, you make lemonade. And something happens. I'm like, well, what's the lesson in this one? That's my first thought. What do I need to learn? What do I need to do? And that's what always keeps me going.
Which is different than how some react to it.
Yes.
a lot of people say poor me,
Yes.
or I give up,
Yes.
or I'm going to distract myself with it, and I'm just not going to think about it.
Yes.
And I've done all of the above.
I have done all of the
yeah.
above too, but it doesn't get me anywhere, and I know I have a higher purpose that I'm supposed to be here and I'm supposed to do more. And there's this inner flame that I just cannot, and I don't want to not have ignited, and it's burning so big that I know I have a purpose, and I just need to share it. I finally have found it. I was sharing with Lindsay earlier that it wasn't until my mid-40s, and I'm like, oh, late bloomer, that I really found my passion with animals. And I'll share how that little story happened. Is we had this one dog. Her name was Mushu. She was a boxer. And I got her at 5 months. I got her for the wrong reason. I got her to fill the hole from the death of my first boxer. So I struggled in my relationship with her because I expected her to be like my first boxer. And I didn't allow her to be her. And so we had a lot of troubles. And then when I finally realized, okay, this is who she is, and her personality is completely different, I have to accept her for who she is. She also taught me how to get my backbone. I didn't realize I'd lost my backbone. And we had her in our life, and she challenged me more than any animal in my entire life has ever challenged me, but she's also the one who brought me to animal communication. And how she made me think out of the box. And I worked with so many trainers, and I was going on the whole obedience level and the whole left brain thinking, and I didn't know what animal communication was. I heard about 20 years ago from a vet, and I looked at her like she had 3 heads. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Well, now I'm an animal communicator, and I think it's the best thing ever, and everyone should do it.
Yeah.
But and everyone can do it, but she challenged me so much, and she challenged me to think out of the box, and she brought me there, and we had brought a cat into our family, and she wanted to kill the cat. And I was going at it from a obedience training perspective, and I'm like, okay, it's going to take a while, and it was working, and slowly, and it was going to take, I was committed to do this for up to a year to get these two to be in the same room together. And probably about a month and a half in, I had the two of them laying on a dog bed just next to our fireplace, and I'm right there. Moosh is on a leash, and I'm like, okay. And Moosh, instant, just, I couldn't even see it, read it, nothing. She just went to go kill the cat. So I grabbed her and I put her down on the ground, and I got mad. I was really frustrated.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm also mad at myself. Like, what have I done? I put stress on her and stress on the cat, and I had a lot of guilt. Totally normal. And then I just was so upset with her, and I'm like, what is your problem? And I'm just like, the cat is staying, and you are staying, and you two have to get along. And I stopped because I was like, what the heck just happened? Because as soon as I said, the cat is staying, she was tense. As soon as I said, and you're staying, she melted. She absolutely melted. And I was like watching her like, are you alive? Are you okay? And she was just breathing, and then she was like yawning and calm, and I was like, oh my gosh. You thought if the cat stayed, you would have to leave. And I was like,
yeah, I'd kill the cat too.
Wow.
She was kicking me out of my own house.
Totally. So
it's you or me.
that was the first light bulb. And then literally 3 days later, Moosh doesn't need to be on a leash. They're upstairs in the house. A week later, they are sleeping back to back. And they were best buds.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, I have no idea what just happened. And then a week after that, a friend sends me a video. Anna Breitenbach, a South African animal communicator who it was about the Black Panther from Diablo to Spirit, sent me this video, and I watched it, and my jaw fell to the floor, and I'm like, what? Animal communication? What is it? What? And then I started thinking back, going, well, that's just what happened with Mushu and our cat. And I'm like, this has a name? So then I started looking back in hindsight and looking at all my relationships with my animals in the past, and I'm like, oh my God, I've been doing this my whole life. But I didn't know it actually had a name.
And that you could do that kind of stuff for other people and help them with
Yeah.
their pain and problems. And
Yeah. So as soon as I realized that, me and my passion, like, I am going to do this. It just like, this is my calling. That I started Googling and researching and doing the research. And then I found a school down in California, the Gurney Institute of Animal Communication. And I was like, okay. And I'm the research freak. So I started researching, who do I like? Whose energy do I like? Who do I want to learn from? And I'm like, oh, I want to learn from this woman
you can
named
basically
Carol
choose
Gurney.
your own instructor? Oh,
Well, I was looking at different instructors.
Yeah.
Because now I had learned more about animal communication. And I'm like, well, who do I feel like I click with? And then I happened to look at the Gurney Institute, and boom, she was coming to Edmonton. I'm like, well, this is a sign.
Yeah.
So my brother lives in Edmonton. I'm going to go stay at his place and take this course. And I was in that course one day. I knew I wanted to become a certified professional animal communicator and do the whole program. And I signed up right away, and I just knew. And then in June was her module 1, and she was coming back up to Edmonton for that. So I'm like, okay, this is meant to be. But I had doubt. And I remember I was driving Jeff back to the airport because he was working away. And I was driving back, and I had just spent 5 months with a dear friend of ours who had died of brain tumor, was dying of brain cancer. And I was working with her 4 or 5 days a week, just doing some energy work on her for palliative care. And she had passed in May, and this was in June. And I was like, oh, could I just get a sign? And I asked her, I said, could you give me a sign if this is what I'm truly meant to do? Because I'm really in a place of doubt right now. And I got home, and literally the next morning, my phone rang super early, and it was our neighbor. And our neighbor's like, oh my God, Hanna, my dog, Huli, I think he's dying. He's not doing well. Can you come and help me? I packed up, all the stuff that I needed, and I started running out the gate, and I stopped, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the sign, because the woman who called me was our friend's best friend. And I knew that was my confirmation that this is what I have to do.
So you knew, though, like, even though you say you're a late bloomer, you figured out your calling in your 40s, but you knew in your 20s that you had a gift.
Yes.
And I don't like titles, and I don't like even your title of animal communicator.
I know.
I know you don't either, because it's hard to put a title on something so vast. But can you list off just some other titles that could fall under the umbrella of Hanna?
Well, for animal communication, there are so many different things. I mean, people refer to themselves as animal medium and animal psychic, interspecies communication, because we really can communicate with everything. We really can.
Birds.
Oh, birds, rocks, trees. Seriously.
What?
Seriously. Everything on this earth we
Stuff
can
without a
communicate
heartbeat?
with. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. This is the first I'm hearing of this, people.
Yes. Yes. I was part of a, I don't even know how to explain it. I'm looking outside because I'm looking at plants. I know. I keep looking at plants because we can connect with plants.
Okay.
And that's how I used to learn their energies, how I learned my my essential oils. I was part of a shamanic class, and we were learning essential oils through traditional journeying, learning the native ways of how to journey and learn the medicine of the plant. And there'd be 14 of us, and we would each do our individual journey in the room, and then we'd write down what we would get, and then we'd share the information. And we're all 80 to 90% accurate of what everyone got, and we did it all our own way, and that's how we got to know with the plants. So I've always had this ability to connect. And I know
to get messages from another sort of level of life.
Yes. Outside of us.
A realm. Or
Yes.
whatever that
I'm
is.
not sure what the right word would be.
I know,
Yeah.
it's so hard to
That's why you can't.
and so many people
pinpoint it.
dismiss anything with a lot of the words we just said. So,
Correct.
Congrats to those of you who are still listening or watching if you have been a little bit triggered by some of the things that
Well,
we're
and,
talking
and,
about.
and
But
some people do get triggered, and I respect that, and some people are fearful of it, and I respect that as well, because in my 20s, I had some signs of what I was aware of, and it scared me. And I was just like, oh, I don't know about this. And then in my 30s, when we were raising the kids, it was other signs would come up, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm not ready for this.
so the day before Father's Day, you're in your 5th module of your course.
Yes.
What happened?
We had a busy weekend. I'm down in California doing the 5th module, and my father, I got a phone call from my husband. I knew my father was really ill.
Because you had been with him quite a bit.
For
For
10 months,
a while,
for
right?
10 months prior, my father was palliative. He had Alzheimer's and also a lot of other medical conditions, and I had just spent 10 months bringing him from Ontario to British Columbia, and I had spent some time with him, a lot of time. That was a huge growing period and a big stretch, because I went to the earth's end and back for him to help him have all his dying wishes completed. And I left, and my brother left, and while I was down in California, my husband had called me at the end of a Saturday night, the day before Father's Day, saying, I just got a call from the home, and your dad's not well. And, it's probably going to be in the next few days, and you might not make it back. And I'm like, oh, okay. So at the end of that evening, I was having a shower, and I just started talking with Dad. And, I was like, hey, tomorrow's Father's Day. It'd be really good if you wanted to go today or on Monday, but not on Father's Day. And the dogs that you love are going to be waiting for you on the other side. And I was just saying, I really love you, and I could just feel him in my heart. And I'm like, I'm going to be okay. I know you chose to go now while I'm not there because you want me to live my life and do what I want to do. And I just all of a sudden had this feeling. And it was literally like an air just moved through me. And I was like, oh, you just made it to the other side.
You just knew.
And I knew he had just passed at that moment. And it was such a connection. And not everyone experiences it, but it's surprising how many people actually do.
I don't feel like I don't relate to what you're talking about, and the more I get to know you, the more I'm like, it's amazing to know someone who feels this other connection to things, because I don't think that I connect that deeply.
I didn't think that either until I got into this line and into this work and into using my right brain and my intuition.
So you
and
think
my
it is a trained thing to some, like there's definitely
we're
you're
born that
with
way.
some things.
We're born intuitive because we don't speak. But as a mother, you intuitively know what's going on. And telepathy, like someone calls and you're like, hey, I was just thinking of you. It's the same thing. And then
that does happen a lot.
It does, and that's a connection, because we're all energy and frequency, and we all vibrate at a certain level, but we have a connection when we're in tune with ourselves and with another person. But like back to my dad, I got out of the shower and I got dressed, and then 5 minutes later the phone rang, and it was my husband, and he says, I've been trying to muster it up, the strength to tell you that your dad just died 5 minutes ago. And I said, thank you, I know, because I was just with him while he left. And then, you know, I hung up and fell to the floor like a puddle and grieved.
Yeah.
And the next day, I had another intense module day that, you know, we needed to be out there and working with clients and being evaluated. And I pulled it together. And in moments when I needed to leave, I honored myself and I left the class and I just went and I just sobbed. And then I came back and then did it. But I learned through my dad, I have never experienced all the pain that I went through to get him to where he wanted to be. My father was a do not resuscitate who was resuscitated. So I fought for him to have dignity, to die with dignity after that, because he wasn't honored in the first time of his passing. There are so many gifts and lessons. And there was so many, like that's a whole podcast and a story on its own if anyone's ever interested. But it was unbelievable. And every day I was in the hospital with him, I kept going, let me find the peace in this purgatory. Because that's what it was. And every day, every moment, I looked for the gem. Because I wasn't going to give away a precious moment to anger or frustration. And I had asked some friends who had lost some parents, what do you wish you did differently? And they all said, I wish I was with them. I wish I didn't get caught up in the bureaucracy. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that. So every moment I was with them, I was with them. And when I wasn't with them, then I could deal with whatever needed to be done. But I was not going to let that interfere in those moments, because I made such amazing memories. And that's what fed me. And the biggest thing I realized is I fought for him. And then my realization after that is like, how about fighting for yourself? How about showing up for yourself? So he died in June, and when I was finishing Module 5, I completed Module 6 by November of that year. And it's 2 years this November, and it's 2 years this June that Dad had passed. So I found my strength after Dad died to finish my dream. And then I always knew I wanted to make a business out of it.
So your dad, so Module 6 is the end, you're done. So your dad's gone, you're able to focus entirely on yourself, which is ultimately focusing on others, because you're creating a business that is 100% about service. And exchanging knowledge and gifts for money, but leaving your people better off. So how do you take that? You've now got the knowledge, you've got the skills. How did you take that out to the world and offer it? Like, this is the marketing piece of this conversation, right? Like, I really want women listening to this who now really know you and like you and trust you to really be inspired by the bold steps that you took next. So, please.
So the next steps is I knew I needed to get a website. So January, I'm like, well, this is a quiet time. So I found, okay, I'm going to use Squarespace. Squarespace, this is just how I work, gave me 14 days introductory to do it. So I'm like, okay, that's my goal. I'm going to have this up and live in 14 days. And day 13, after literally spending probably 10 to 15 hours every day writing content, figuring out buttons, learning, my website launched. And I had probably about 40 or 50 people, and I sent an email out to all my friends, check out my website. And I was so proud. I built it. And then I just got feedback.
This is rare, by the way, for people listening and watching. This is a little unique. Like, yes, it is easier now in the last 3 to 4 maybe years to do what you just described, but a lot of people don't do it. Because they start to, and they literally want to punch their computer in the face, and then they either don't do it because they don't have the money to hire someone.
But I didn't give myself an option. I had to learn it.
And there's tons of great tutorial videos on YouTube.
So I had 2 laptops, one to build it and one to read the instructions. And I read the instructions 10 times. I'm like, okay, step 1, let's go back to this again. And I just, I'm persistent.
Yeah. Well, and when you know that you have to do something, because you have to or you won't be able to sleep at night, like you do it. It's like writing a book. Like when you know that you have to get this book out to the world, you can't sleep, so you might as well stay up writing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really what it was. So it started with that and a little newsletter, and slowly my audience has been building. Then I started with a Facebook page. And I thought, if I'm going to be out there in business cards, well, I'm going to start that. But I wanted to look professional from the beginning. And I had that all working. And then, like, for coming and hearing about your class, it was like, okay, I get it. I have an Instagram account. I had a Facebook account. But I didn't understand how they really worked and how they could work to my advantage. I now, oh my gosh, my newsletter goes out to probably 14, 15 different countries. 60% of my clientele is Canadian, 35 is from the US, and the other 5% is from Europe.
And how do these people find you? How do these people come to know you?
Word of mouth and people sharing my my newsletters with their friends.
Forward to a friend button.
Exactly. Well, I finally figured out my forward to a friend.
You don't need the button, right? Like obviously, because they were forwarding it anyways.
They don't. But
cool
it's been working. So each month has been like, okay, I'm adding a little bit more.
MailChimp, right?
MailChimp, yeah. And so I'm learning. And I had a client on Instagram, one of my grief quotes, and it was a rock that I had painted of a heart and a paw print, and then my words of how grief is. My whole feeling about grief is a whole new emotion that joins our repertoire of existing emotions. And just because we're happy in one moment and sad in one moment and angry, grief is just another emotion that follows the exact same continuum. And it just shows up. But it does show up sometimes at the most awkward times, like crying in a supermarket because you hear a song and you're like, oh well, doesn't matter, I'm just going to cry. Okay, now I'm better, now I can keep going. Just like for a moment something makes you happy, but we don't think of the good emotions, we just walk past them. It's just the grief makes everyone feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
But when we know it's just part of us, we don't move and get over it.
Yeah.
It becomes us. It becomes a part of us. So we just keep walking through it and with it. And if we stop making a big deal about it, then it's not a big deal. And yeah, now I'm off tangent, so keep me going.
Don't worry. I can see, I haven't hired you, I haven't had you work with me and my dog or anything, but I can kind of see what that value that you bring. Like I can see that wisdom and that passion that you bring, and it's so helpful because a lot of people just don't know how to think about this stuff. And they're taught as young kids to get over it and to push it out of your mind. You've got to keep going and don't even think about that if it makes you sad, and like all those things that we get told by people who don't know what to do.
Yes.
Right?
Well, and it's not that they don't know. Well, they don't know, but they're also uncomfortable because they were told the same thing.
Oh yeah, they're just doing what they know. Yeah.
So if we think about it, my whole purpose and mission is to help people feel comfortable, because literally we do not get out of this world alive.
Yeah.
We don't. So we need to befriend dying and death, because it's a part of our life. And if you think about it, our animals, especially as children, is our first experience of death.
Yeah.
And if we can make that one that we can talk about and honor our animal and have a service for them, or something that commemorates them, and have an open discussion, we can change a child's perception of death so it's nothing to be feared, because we need to work on the fear factor that so many people have.
We're driving to Bright Creek, by the way.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Okay.
Actually, hold on one second. It smells like dog in here because there's a dog in here. So let's just get some fresh air in here while we're paused. No offense, Dirk, but you smell bad. And I like that you have two big, massive beasts at your house, because you're used to the smell of dog, which is...
I'm so used to it, I don't even smell it anymore.
I was kitchening the odd big whiff of it. I'm like, I'm so glad she's a dog person, because it smells like a full-on kennel in here. It's basically a kennel on wheels, this vehicle we're driving.
Hey, it works well.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you for sharing that, piece of like, the necessity of like, I gotta get a website. Like I can't just keep this skill and talent, and passing out business cards in town. Like I need to get online and it's not comfortable and it sucks and it's hard and I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm figuring it out and I'm persevering and like that's
and
so
I'm
great.
not afraid. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to try this, Instagram, Facebook, website. I'm going to put myself out there. And if there's something that I don't like, it will evolve with me as I evolve. So I'm not afraid to put myself out there because I'm going to keep learning. And really, I think all that aspect of the marketing, it evolves as we evolve.
That's the dog park. He's a little excited about it.
He's like,
oh my gosh, there's
he
dogs.
is.
I have to whine really loud just in case they hear me.
I want to go play.
Okay, Derek, enough. Thank you for that. Give it up. You're wrecking our podcast. Derek, lay down.
Mom's gonna edit this out.
Yeah. He gives me the sad eyes. Puts his nose down and looks at me like that.
He's like, oh.
Yeah. So when you came into the Fempreneur Marketing School, it was through a referral from Carol, right?
Yes.
And Carol was referred by Corinne.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
And I'm meeting Corinne tomorrow.
Yeah, which
person.
is so cool. And tomorrow is actually our graduation celebration for the current 2 classes that have just wrapped up this week. And that's going to be super awesome. Just so cool to get everybody together. But anyways, what I wanted to ask you from a marketing perspective is, what is your marketing journey been like this last 2 years? Like since you got your website up, what have been some of your greatest aha moments, things that you recommend people do, things you recommend people don't do? Like, is there anything that you can
ask for help?
Okay.
Ask for help.
Okay.
Find help. Find people. Do your research. Google. Ask people what works for them. Find people in your industry or other industries and ask them, and just keep, I think really it's just being hungry to figure out how to make it better. And like this came out for me and I was just like, wow, like I'm always searching because I know my message needs to get out there. So I'm always searching and I'm creating opportunities for myself. Like there's another mastermind group that I'm a part of, which is Animal Communicators, and there's 6 of us from 6 different countries who are participating to help. But I think that's the other thing too, is I don't want to be alone. I work out of an office by myself. We're out in the country, so I am physically alone, and I don't want to be alone.
Thank God for Zoom, right?
And that, so Zoom makes a huge difference. But I'm big into building community and building network and meeting with other women. And so yes, I network with other animal communicators, but it's also important to network with other women from other businesses because they're going to see things and help me see how I can get my information and what I do out to other people. Because just because I'm in the animal communicator world, I understand it, but not everyone understands it. So it's great to have women who don't understand what it is that I do, because then they can ask me the questions, and then that makes me think and go, hey, okay, so this isn't clear. This helps me add value. Oh, this is how I can explain it better. And the other women are what helps me to be better, and that's how I can also contribute to the others, going, well, explain a little bit more about what it is that you do and how you do it, and we can give each other literally thought-provoking questions in our own business so we can make it better, because if everyone has
put them on SurveyMonkey.
Totally. Totally.
But on that topic, can you take us through what it would be like to work with you? Like, what's the typical flow of, why would someone call you? Maybe give us a recent example, if you can, of how many meetings, how long are the meetings, how do you hold the meetings? Walk us through what it would be like to be your client.
Okay,
please.
so typically to be my client, most people find me through my website or referral, which is www.hannabracken.com. And
HANNA, no H,
yep.
BRACKEN.
Yep, .com. And from there, and even if people call me or contact me another way, I always direct them to my website, because under the contact me or work with me, I have a consultation intake form.
Yeah.
And I just do better visually to see someone's intake. So what I do is I send them to my website, they fill in the consultation intake, and then I get the intake, I review the intake, I contact them, and we will set up a time for an initial chat. And that really is an intake review. But I'm also building a rapport and a relationship with them. And I'm starting that, and I'm also making sure that they understand what I do. I answer their questions, and I'm explaining what's going to go on, what happens, and
why would someone do that though? Like let's
why
go back a step further.
Okay, we'll step back for why. So people are coming to me when their animals have behavioral issues, because basically we don't understand why animals do what they do, but when an animal has a certain behavior, they totally know why they're doing what they're doing, because it makes sense to them. So, for example, I have one of my last behavior cases was a cat that was literally pooping in the bathtub and not in the litter box. And the person is like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So she contacted me going, can you help me with this? And there are a million reasons. Like, that's another whole blog as to why a cat would poop outside of a litter box. And so my whole point is to get to the reason of why the animal is doing that, and then explain it to the person. So I'm like a liaison.
Like an investigator almost. You're like, what's going on here?
Yes.
But can you connect with the cat where you kind of feel their energy, their thoughts, their concerns?
Yes. So
that's the thing.
People send me a photo of their animal, and that photo is basically, I refer to it, that's the cat's digital fingerprint, right? Because I get the photo, and our fingerprint is unique. Our energetic vibration and frequency that we vibrate at as ourselves is unique. So when I see the photo of the animal, I'm connecting to them directly. It's like Wi-Fi. It turns on everything, but we don't see the physical connectivity of the wires that go from the Wi-Fi box to our laptop or to our phone. And that's the same thing with me with animal communication. I'm telepathically connecting with the animals.
You said the word.
I said the word.
I'm so glad you did. So intake form, because somebody's having an input.
Yes.
And then you connect with them. Then you ask them to send a photo.
Well, yeah. Well, I'll send them an email asking them to send me a photo.
And set up a time to
do
or whatever.
Yeah,
because this is what a lot of women have trouble with, is the system and process of taking their skill or talent and packaging it in a structured way.
Yes.
Right? So I'm happy that you're explaining this right now.
Okay.
And that's why I'm being rigid with you and wanting you to really lay it out. Because this is something that not a lot of women who have a passion or a purpose can do. They can't package it. They can't put it into steps, right?
Okay.
So I'm happy that you do this really well.
Well, my whole point, especially with the discovery call, is I'm also here to see, is my service going to help them in their situation? But I am here for the benefit of the animal and the relationship with their person. I may not be the right person for them. So
you don't want to take their money until you've talked to them, because you want to know that there's a bit of a connection there.
But I also have a network of other animal communicators and other people with modalities, and I'm like, I think you'd actually be better with this person.
Yeah.
I will send them to them. And I charge, I charge a fee, and I know some people who approach me going, I don't know if I can pay that. I give options because I'm here to help. And, there's some students that I can refer to that I mentor. Some charge and some are learning. So it depends on the skill level that you want.
Okay.
And then some go to me. So I'm here to network out and to
That's
help the
cool.
people who I can help, because
Yeah, you are part of quite a large network
I
by
am.
the sound of things. And
I
we know
am.
Shelley
yes,
Grote, is that how you say your last name? Grote?
Shelley Ortova Grote, yes. Yeah.
She's also part of your network, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's lovely.
And she and I actually communicate to each other's animals often, because
Nice.
you know, even an animal communicator needs a communicator, because when I'm so emotionally involved or invested in my relationship with my animal, it's very hard to remain unbiased in really stressful situations. So I
It's
can
like
help.
a massage therapist needs
Absolutely.
a massage therapist. kind of
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So they do the discovery call, the consultation call.
Yeah.
They show up for that
Yep.
on Zoom.
Yep.
Then you're like, Kate. Sometimes does that just morph into the real
Yes.
deal? I figured
Yes.
so. Okay.
It does. So last night, for example, I had a client from Lethbridge who we talked briefly for about 15 minutes in the morning, and then all of a sudden I just instantly know, okay, yes, I can do this.
And then do you just kind of make yourself available because it's kind of an urgent situation, or do you often book them like a week out?
Well, that's,
or does it depend?
it all depends on the situation and the urgency, and also my availability, because I am booking up in advance. I do leave room for some emergency situations, but this one yesterday, I'm like, okay, yep, 7 o'clock, and I can do this. So we did a real-time communication. So I usually connect with the animal just before, and we're having a conversation, and then I talk with the person, and then I share the information. And then this morning I had another client that I was talking with, and we were doing our initial intake review, and I said, because this is a potential end-of-life transition, and in this case I'm like, okay, this is going to take a lot of time, so I want all the information ahead of time, because I'm going to have a distance communication first, because there's a lot of really big questions that need to be answered, and I need that time and space to have that communication with just the animal. And then in the follow-up with the person, so not everyone has a follow-up. Sometimes it just goes from the intake, boom, and then others have 2 or 3 sessions. But in those 2 or 3 sessions, it's still all under the same fee. It just depends on what's involved on a case-by-case situation. So some are more involved. And then I'm talking with the person sharing the information the animal shared, but it's also real time. So if they have questions, I can also connect with the animal and share with them right away what's going on.
Yeah.
And then typically it's that's the end of working with me. And I've built a relationship with a lot of people with their animals, that when there's a medical crisis or some physical problems going on, or now their animal is reaching end of life, or they're having issues with their senior years, they contact me again. And I have that relationship. So I had another woman, I had done 3 communications with her with 2 animals. Actually 4 communications with her. 2 after one had passed, and 2 with another one that was here, and I will soon be having a 5th communication now that her second animal has passed. So it's, for people who worked with me, a lot of the time it ends up becoming like a lifelong friendship, or the life of their relationship with their animal.
Because you have a relationship with your animal even after they're gone. Like,
Correct.
you still,
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in closing, Hanna, will you please give our listeners and watchers a little bit of marketing advice? You've come a long way, and you've learned a lot, and you love to help people. So tell these ladies who are stuck in their head and can't make a video, or who haven't started an Instagram account yet, or don't have a website yet, or who are just frozen with what to do next. Give them a little nudge.
Can I actually use the Nike slogan, just do it?
Please, yeah.
Like it is literally just do it. Be unapologetic. Don't be scared. And I know you're scared. I'm still scared when I'm doing things in regards to like doing a video, and it takes me 10 times. But how else am I going to get my message out there? And my whole point is to be real, because I want to find people who are real. So literally just be yourself. Trust yourself. put yourself out there, because how else are people going to find you if you're just like, no one would know who I am if I just stayed in my office at home. And talk with people, ask people questions, find mentors, find courses, like Lindsay. I truly believe, like YYC Fempreneurs has really helped a lot, because it taught me more about the social media on a more in-depth level, and I was in a safe environment to ask questions and to learn some more ins and outs that I wouldn't have been able to figure out on my own, and I wouldn't have had the time. So having this 6-week commitment for me was like, I have no problem getting up early, so that was a piece of cake. But it was like, okay, I have homework to do. I am going to show up for myself. And I learned, I've shown up for my father, I've shown up for so many others that I'm like, okay, I am now in my 50s. I am showing up for myself, and I am going to do this. And it's just making that, commitment, and knowing that I was accountable to other women. I'm like, I am also accountable to myself. And I don't know if that comes with age, wisdom, maturity, or just comes to anyone at the right time. It's just doing it. I know the fear is there, but how else do you get through fear than walking through it? And we don't always walk through it pretty. So I almost equate this again back to grief. We can be afraid and hide and cry and never talk about it. But if we don't share our grief and walk through our grief and realize that it's part of it, we're never going to grow. And it's in those downs of life that we actually grow. And that's where you get your courage. And it's mustering up the courage. And it's also being okay with not being okay. That's really what it is.
Thank you for saying that.
And this group for that is great. The accountability factor, like I said, just showing up. I'm showing up for other women, and they're showing up for me. There's a lot of value right there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think community is key, because before we, when we have something in our head and we haven't announced it to anyone, and we haven't asked anyone to hold us accountable, we haven't asked anyone for help, we can easily quit. We can easily back out. We can easily take the easier route, right?
Well,
and
we make excuses because we don't have anyone to show up for.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you have not got a team, you need a team. Start looking around. Start finding those people in your world that are doing things that are a little more big and bold than others. People that seem to possess some leadership skills that you can maybe be a part of the things that they're doing. Just get in there.
Build your team. Your team will come when you put it out there. Because I kept asking, like I had reached a point, I'm like, show me a way and show me someone. And it was literally, a friend went to the course, told, not my friend, but my friend's friend went. And it's like that, hair commercial. She told 2 friends, she told 2 friends. And that's how it worked. And that's how I ended up here. And I also let another friend know.
Yes.
And she's in Lindsay's Tuesday group.
Yeah.
And it's helping each other be the best that they can be.
Yeah, and when you find something that works, share it, right?
Yes.
Share it.
Yes. And be happy for someone who's succeeding.
Yeah.
And this
throw competition out the window.
Totally. And some people who are starting out, like there's all different levels of us of where we are in our business, but the best part is there's always something to learn from everyone. Whether you're starting out, the questions you may ask helps me. Where I'm at, maybe I'm motivating someone or inspiring someone to do something. But I don't know, I'm going to say I mentor a lot of students who are going through the Gurney Institute program. And I tell them often, the teacher teaches the student, but the student always teaches the teacher.
Yes, I've learned so much from all you guys.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
yes.
yes.
I
always joke that I selfishly created this group.
I
selfishly created a community for myself.
Yes.
I kind of did, but I
Yes.
was like, I give a lot to you guys, but I get so much in return.
Yeah. It's an absolute plug-in. It's a recharge.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so excited for tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So excited.
Like the inspiration goes both ways.
Yeah.
And everyone's, bowl is full.
And celebrating each other. I mean, gosh,
Yes.
how many times as women do, especially with moms who are looking after all the things, how often do we stop and celebrate something?
We don't.
Never, right? So tomorrow night,
We're going to celebrate.
hold on to the wheel here. Celebrate. Anyways, let's wrap it up here. Yeah.
Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Hey, before you take off, Lindsay here again. I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I hope you're plugged into the email list so you're getting all the good stuff that's going out there at yycfempreneur.com. I also hope that you're connected to us either on Facebook or Instagram at yycfempreneurs. And I want to let you know about a really cool thing that's launching on November 7th. You can get 3 free months access to a new Facebook community, a private Facebook group that I'm launching on November 7th. It's called the Monetization and Accountability Team. In that group, you're going to get live marketing training from me. All the nerdy stuff that I gather from the world, I'm going to bring it back and share it in there with you. The group is $39 a month, but you're going to get 3 months for free if you purchase the book, which is on pre-sale for 40% off until November 7th. So you don't have a lot of time to get in on this. I suggest you do it right now today at yycfempreneur.com. And yeah, I'm really excited to be able to create more stuff for you to help you be the amazing woman that you are on social media and on the internet, and just being able to serve more and more of your ideal clients. Thanks for being here. Can't wait to meet you soon if I haven't met you already. Cheers.